This is the story of the 3 bears. Once upon a time, there were 3 bears. A great big papa bear, a middle-sized mama bear, and a wee little baby bear. They lived in a little house in the forest, and they had 3 chairs. A great big chair for the papa bear, a middle-sized chair for the mama bear, and a wee little chair for the baby bear. And upstairs there were 3 beds, a great big bed for the papa bear, a middle-sized bed for the mama bear, and a wee little bed for the baby bear. One morning the mama bear made some porridge for breakfast. She filled a great big bowl for the papa bear, a middle-sized bowl for the mama bear, and a wee little bowl for the baby bear. But the porridge was too hot to eat, so the 3 bears went out for a walk in the forest. That same morning, a little girl called Goldilocks was walking through the woods. She came to the 3 bears' house, and she knocked on the door. But nobody called, "Come in," so she opened the door and went in. Goldilocks saw the 3 chairs. She sat in the great big chair. It was too hard. The middle-sized chair was too soft. The baby chair was just right, but it broke when she sat on it. Now Goldilocks spied the porridge. "I am hungry," she said. So she tasted the porridge. The porridge in the big bowl was too hot. The porridge in the middle-sized bowl was too cold. The porridge in the wee little bowl was just right, so she ate it all up. Then Goldilocks went upstairs and tried the beds. The great big bed was too hard. The middle-sized bed was too soft. But the wee little bed was oh so nice. So Goldilocks lay down and went to sleep. Then home through the forest and back to their house came the 3 bears. The great big bear, the middle-sized bear, and the wee little baby bear. The moment they stepped into the house, they saw that someone had been there. Said the papa bear in his great big voice. "Someone has been sitting in my chair." "Land sakes," said the mama bear in her middle-sized voice. "Someone has been sitting in my chair." "Oh dear," cried the baby bear in his wee little voice. "Someone has been sitting in my chair and has broken it all to bits." Then they all looked at the table. "Humph," said the papa bear in his great big voice. "Someone has been tasting my porridge." "And someone has been tasting my porridge," said the mama bear. "Someone has eaten my porridge all up," said the baby bear sadly. Then up the stairs went the 3 bears, with a thump, 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 and a trot, 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 and a skippity, skippity, skip. That was the wee little tiny bear. "Humph," said the papa bear in his great big voice. "Someone has been sleeping in my bed." "And someone has been sleeping in my bed," said the mama bear. "Oh dear," cried the baby bear in his wee little voice. "And someone has been sleeping in my bed, and here she is right now." Goldilocks opened her eyes, and she saw the 3 bears. "Oh," said Goldilocks. She was so surprised that she jumped right out of the window. And she ran all the way home. And she never saw the house in the forest again.
Once was an ugly duckling with feathers all stumpy and brown, and the other birds in so many words said, "Get out of town! Get out! Get out! Get out of town!" And he went with a quack and a waddle and a quack in a flurry of eider down. Little ugly duckling went wandering far and near, but at every place they said to his face, "Now, get out of here! Get out! Get out! Get out of here!" And he went with a quack and a waddle and a quack and a very unhappy tear. That ugly duckling grew and grew, and pretty soon he didn't look like a duckling anymore. All through the winter time he hid himself away, ashamed to show his face, afraid of what others might say. All through the winter in his lonely clump of weed, till a flock of swans spied him there, and very soon agreed, "You're a very fine swan indeed."
Yes, a very fine swan indeed.
Swan? Me a swan? Oh, go on.
You're a swan. Take a look at yourself in the lake, and you'll see.
Am I looked? Am I saw? Am I said? Why, it's me. I am a swan. Whee! I'm not such an ugly duckling. No feathers all stumpy and brown. For in fact these birds in so many words said,
The best in town. The best. The best. The best in town.
not a quack, not a quack, not a waddle or a quack, but a glide and a whistle and a snowy white back, and a head so noble and high. Say, who's an ugly duckling? Not I. Not I.
This is the story of Hansel and Gretel. On the edge of a small clearing near a great forest, there lived a poor woodcutter and his wife and his 2 children, Hansel and Gretel. The wife was the children's stepmother, and she was very cruel to them. They had always been very poor, but one time there was a great famine in the country, and the woodcutter could not earn even enough to buy any food for his family. The poor woodcutter worried day and night. Finally, he said to his wife,
"What shall we do? We will surely starve. The food we have left is not enough for the children, let alone for us."
"I have a plan," the stepmother said. "Early in the morning we will take the children into the forest and leave them in the thickest part of it. They will never find their way home again, and we will be rid of them."
"I cannot do that,"
cried the woodcutter. But the cruel woman forced him to agree. Now Hansel and Gretel heard them talking, and Hansel thought of a clever plan. Creeping outside, he filled his pockets with pebbles. The next morning, before the sun was up, the stepmother shouted to the children, "Get up, you lazy bones! We are going into the forest to cut wood. Here is a piece of bread. Don't eat it yet, because you won't get any more." Then they set off for the forest, with Hansel and Gretel lagging in the rear. Gretel carried their bread, and Hansel stopped every few steps to drop a pebble on the ground. Finally, the father called back,
Hansel, hurry up! What's keeping you? Oh, I'm just looking at my white kitten who's sitting on the roof,
said Hansel.
She's trying to say goodbye to me.
You fool, cried the stepmother. That's the sunshine glinting on the roof. When they reached the middle of the forest, the father built a good fire. Then the stepmother said, wait by the fire while we...
Who's sitting on the roof?
said Hansel.
She's trying to say goodbye to me.
You fool, cried the stepmother. That's the sunshine glinting on the roof. When they reached the middle of the forest, the father built a good fire. Then the stepmother said, wait by the fire while we go to chop wood. We will come back to get you. Hansel and Gretel fell asleep. When they woke up, it was night. Hansel comforted Gretel, who was frightened by the dark. And then, when the moon came up, they could see the pebbles that Hansel had dropped, and they followed them all the way home. When they got home, the cruel stepmother planned again to get rid of them, and the next day they all went once more to the forest. This time, Hansel was not able to collect pebbles. He dropped breadcrumbs instead. But when evening came, they could not find the breadcrumbs. The birds had eaten them. All night they walked, and all the next morning. Suddenly they saw before them a little house, all made of gingerbread with windows of spun sugar. They ran toward it eagerly. Hansel ate a piece of the roof, and Gretel ate some of the window. Then they heard a voice saying, nibble, nibble like a mouse, who is nibbling at my house? The children answered, it's only the wind, and they went on eating. Then the door of the house opened, and an old woman came out leaning on a crutch. The two children were very frightened, but the ugly old woman spoke very sweetly. Do come in, she said. You must be very hungry and tired, for you look as if you've come a long way. Then she led them into her house. There she invited them to sit down to dinner. They were so hungry that they ate everything on the table. When they had finished, the old woman put them to bed in great, comfortable beds. Now, although the old woman seemed so kind, she was really a wicked witch who ate little children. So while Hansel and Gretel were sleeping, she was thinking of the fine meal she would have. The next morning, she awakened Hansel and put him into a cage. No matter how he begged to get out, her heart did not soften. Then she woke up Gretel and put her to work. I am going to eat you both, she said. But first you can do some of my work. So poor Gretel had to carry water, chop kindling, scrub floors, and sweep the rooms. Gretel did not get very much to eat, but the best kind of food was given to Hansel, for the witch thought he was too thin. Each morning she asked him to stretch out his finger so she could feel how fat he was, for she could not see well. But Hansel stuck out an old bone, so she thought he was not growing any fatter. At last the witch decided to eat him anyway. Gretel had to build the fire and fill the kettle, and she cried as she worked. Then the witch came to Gretel and said, Crawl in the oven, Gretel, and see if it is hot enough. But Gretel replied, I don't know how to do it. How do I climb into the oven? Stupid, cried the witch. The door is big enough. Why, I could get in myself. She bent down and put her head in the oven. Quick as a flash, Gretel pushed her in and slammed the door. Then Gretel let Hansel out of his cage. Hansel, we're free, she cried. The old witch is dead. Filling their pockets with glittering jewels from the witch's hoard, they set off through the woods determined to find their way home. But though Hansel and Gretel walked and walked, they were still lost, and not a thing looked familiar. Just when they had given up hope, they heard a happy cry. There was their father coming toward them.
Hansel! Gretel!
Cried the father, hurrying to them.
I have looked and looked for you.
He took them home, and Hansel and Gretel found that their cruel stepmother had gone away forever. And with the jewels that they brought from the witch's house, they were able to live comfortably and happily ever after.
There once was a boy, and his name was Jack, and his mother said to Jack, said she, now go to the butcher and sell the cow, and bring the money to me.
He traded the cow for a bag of beans, and the moment it was done, he knew 'twas a foolish thing, a very foolish thing, a foolish thing to do.
Now Jack was afraid of the people of the town, and Jack was afraid of his mother. If it wasn't one thing with poor young Jack, it was bound to be another.
His mother was very sad to hear what Jack had done that day. She told her son how wrong it was, and she threw the beans away. In the middle of the night, when the moon was bright, while the warm wind blew and the owl cried woo, the beans began to grow and to grow and to grow, and they grew 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 and they grew. Then the sun came up and there it was, a mile and a mountain high, strong and green and wonderful to see, a